So this is not a standard view. All it's showing is me.
And a foggy sea. Oh, look at that. Yeah.
That should make you available now.
I don't recognize that guy. Doesn't have his hat on.
Can you folks hear
Good
us?
point. We do, yes.
Right now, I can't hear you. I need to address that. Can you still hear us? Now we should be able to hear you if someone speaks.
Check, check.
Not yet.
That a new type of setup you got? The small ones are up above, and when they speak, they come down below.
Yes.
Much better.
So I think I have it. We have, if someone can speak, we can give you a thumbs up.
Check, check. Ah, I hear me too. Only the faintest of echo, so that's great.
The owl is doing its job.
That's right. All right. Well, we have a quorum present. So at 6:30, I will call this meeting of the Transportation Advisory Committee to order. Are there any adjustments to the agenda? All right, not having any. We can move on to approval of minutes. Have folks had the opportunity to have a look at our minutes from November? If there are any adjustments that need to be made, go ahead and let me know. All right, if not, then go ahead, Joanne.
I think there was some missing information.
Was there? I
There's
thought I
some-
updated it with what you told me,
Maybe
but
there was some. Oh, did you? Okay, all right.
maybe. So if it doesn't look right to you, let me know. I think that I put in the stuff that you said.
Okay.
But I don't remember what it was now. So, but in any
It
case,
was who made and who seconded a couple of motions.
I got them right the first time. So yeah, when you provided that, it just confirmed what was in there. So yeah, so if there are not any changes, then I have a motion to approve those.
I'll make the motion.
Can I make that motion even though I took the meeting minutes?
You certainly
Oh.
can. Was it Tina who said that also?
It was me,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Okay, that is fine. So are you making the motion?
Yes.
All right, great. So we motion from Tina. I guess you
I'll
were
second
seconding
it.
then? Yes. All right, second from Joanne. All in favor? You can do
Aye.
hands or say aye. Yeah.
Aye.
Great. All opposed? All right, passes unanimously. Our minutes are approved. Are there any visitors present in council chambers? I don't see any online. So this is the point at which if anybody had anything to address that was not in the agenda, this would be the time, but it seems there's no one present for that. All right, so we can move on to item number 5, which is the monthly transportation report category. This one is a little off this month. Bill got, I don't know what the right metaphor is, but like knocked off course by a requirement having to do with water stuff that I know only the slightest thing about, because he just said I can't because I have the state thing. So I think perhaps unless there's something really pressing, we could just get a double report in January. Go ahead, Bill, also.
So I think that sounds great. I'd give just a quick brief overview that in terms of our operations for winter, we had done, we have a new process here in the city where we have a winter response team. And so one of the things that happened is that we actually emailed both the dispatchers, the PD leadership, the fire department leadership, the street department leadership, and we actually had a plan laid out and everyone was on the same page, including we got together around the towing instructions for the storm so that the PD staff that come in knew kind of where we were. There were about 20 cars that ended up being identified, and more than half of them were towed. So it was a very busy night. Basically this new process worked because we laid out the whole response to the storm, from when we would salt and sand, when we'd switch to plowing, and when we'd do cleanup. And everything actually went very well on the street side. I have 3 new Bobcat drivers and I have 2 new truck drivers. And so this was a great training experience. And the sidewalks truthfully didn't meet our expectations, and we're working on making some process changes there to address, particularly the sidewalks were clear, but you couldn't get across a crosswalk in probably 70% of our locations because the new staff plowing didn't know how to back up with a sander on the Bobcat and couldn't stop, back up, and clear the crosswalks. So we're looking at ways around that. It was a surprise to me, but no one was injured. On the lighter side, we had 8 flat tires that night with our Bobcats because our drivers didn't know that if you drive off the curb, you can't turn the Bobcat back onto it without taking the tire right off the rim and getting a flat tire. So busy night for tire changes, but all in all, we had all the linear sidewalks done. So big learning experience for us, and I'll give a more thorough report on salt use, et cetera, next month.
The yeah, some of the input that I heard from various folks was about sidewalk clearing, and we saw it show up on Front Porch Forum also. So it's good to know it's a process that's being dialed in. I think I talked briefly to Joanne about this, and one of the things that we don't have a formal list of the sidewalks that are city maintained, that at least that we know about. I know that you have one, and I think one of the things that we're sort of missing as a community is the knowledge that people need to clear their sidewalk if the city's not going to do it for them, and they don't know if the city is going to do it or not. And so there's these, there's sort of 2 parts of that. I assume Joanne has something to say about this too. I don't want to put you on the spot, but
I think you covered it. And Bill, you also covered it. So I appreciate understanding what the issues were that you had to deal with, because that does not sound like fun. But the plowing was done really well. So thank you for that. Good.
Thank you. I'm going to take the suggestion that the chair made, and actually we should probably publish that list of what we do plow and what remains. So I'll see that we get that done in the next, say, 2.5 to 3 weeks. We actually provide that list. We'll probably display it in a map form as well, so that folks can see where we stop.
yeah, that would be excellent. Go ahead, Erica.
So sorry, I just heard that, like a lot of the complaints I heard, especially around the crosswalks and curb cuts, and a lot of the folks that I know that had issues were people that use those curb cuts and crosswalks, just because they're using mobility aids and wheelchairs, and that was a huge issue for them. you know, just getting those done and done well. And folks that I know that use the sidewalks and curb cuts and crosswalks are not ones that can easily, you know, shovel well, because they're elders and people with disabilities. So I understand that, you know, the city can't maintain everything, and getting a list out of what the city does and does not do is great. But just saying that, you know, I know as a new experience, the storms are not something we can rectify immediately. But just getting those curb cuts and crosswalks are imperative for a lot of folks in Barre. Thank you.
So I do want to say, you're absolutely right, and we did not achieve our outcome on this storm with regard to the pedestrian mobility, so we'll do better.
Thank you. Let's see. So in terms, the next thing on our list, note new resident concerns. All that I was aware of had to do with snow clearance stuff. Was there anything else that that sort of you know came up to anyone's attention since our last meeting?
So virtually all of the concerns expressed into DPW were storm related. We had an earlier event and we didn't get complaints on that small storm. This storm actually tracked about 130 miles north of where they said it was. So we were hoping for 4 to 8 inches and we got 18. So not that we were surprised because we had everybody out and we planned for the 18, but we didn't achieve the outcomes we needed.
Well, I'm glad to hear that there's things that you've identified which can be improved. So that's, you know, it's a reason to hope for, you know, hope for better outcomes. So thank you. All right, next up on our agenda, number 6, old business. The one item there is data from speed signs, and I recognize that this is something that potentially, my understanding is that Bill was able to get access, but the aforementioned water thing took a lot of bandwidth, and so I'm not sure exactly where that one stands. It might be that we have to hold on to this one for next time, but I'll let Bill jump in and make any kind of clarification.
I'm going to try and see if I can pull up a folder that I created beforehand. I didn't get through all 4 signs. I'll describe what I did and then perhaps we'll decide we could wait or we can take a look at it. I actually got speed versus count for the period August 15th to December 15th. And then I also took a day or a week in August and a week in November, both around the 15th of the month, to see if there were any changes between seasonal speeds. And I was going to try to just let folks get a look at those comparisons and maybe give a brief overview of what they suggest. But it'll be very brief. If I can manage to find this, I'm going to just go and look and see if I can find that scan right now, and then I'll return.
Sounds good. Thanks.
For reasons I can't explain, even though I'm in City Hall, I cannot access the primary file.
All right, we can come back to this one. You know, I think that what we're hoping for is to be able to, you know, to dig in and look at it a bunch, and we probably wouldn't be able to, you know, to do that just over the screen share anyhow. So we'll keep this you know, table again. And if you're able to, could you share those data files with me, and then I'll see if there's something, if it's something that we can send out to the rest of the committee membership.
So I will do that after the meeting.
Thank you.
By way of explanation, there are some things that people will find exciting The excitement is that all of our speed signs recorded people doing in excess of 66 miles an hour, every one of them.
But this
So-
is, yeah, the only one I would have been surprised about is Prospect Street, but Erica set me straight last time around, in terms of, yeah.
Remarkably, we had roughly 70 vehicles that were above 50. So there are people that are truly flying.
Yeah, it's fortunately, though, every one of those is dangerous. That's a really small percentage of the total vehicles. Anyhow, I'm thrilled to look at some of this data. So we'll one way or another make it into a digestible form, and then we'll bring that up in January, unless there's something else that really crowds out the January meeting that I'm not aware of. All right, under item 7, new business. We have a review of intersection design. It does not look to me like anybody has turned out to give public input on this, but we can look at it ourselves and do our best to give feedback. That flyer that you that's included in the packet. Sorry, I was like, what is the word for that? In the packet, it was distributed to those houses, right, Bill?
It was distributed. It was supposed to have been distributed last Friday, but something happened that day, a winter storm. And so it didn't get out. It didn't get out until yesterday. One of the things I did is I added an addenda to it that said that the TAC may entertain additional public comment and that they could actually forward that comment via telephone to me if need be. So in terms of arriving at a final decision, I urge the TAC to perhaps provide another several weeks if they can for public input before making a decision.
Yeah,
No action.
I think that makes perfect sense. So we will not we won't give an advisement tonight. What we can do is consider the design, and then we'll take it up next time.
Thank you.
All right. I didn't compare these side by side, but is the drawing that we have the same as the last meeting when we considered it? I thought that it was, but I didn't check.
So the drawing is the same as the one that was issued, I think it was dated July 17th. It depicts a one-way in on Elmore Street, one way out on Glenwood Avenue. And it alters the length of the left turn lane by about 350 feet. It shortens it so that the left turn lane on South Main Street now begins about 100 feet before Glenwood Avenue. It's not back 400 feet. So we've really shortened that length based on how many vehicles can get through in a single light queue. And there's enough space there to hold about 13 cars. That's about all that you can get through. There won't be any extra room, and there'll be a slight impediment to South Main Street southbound, but not significant. The other major benefit was that the area that we stopped using as a left-only turn is now, I'm going to call it a crossover lane for left turns from either direction. So right now, if you were taking a left into Aubuchon's, you actually can't do so without going into the left-only lane. And by shortening that lane, we now have a bona fide left turn lane for Aubuchon. We also have generated a bona fide low-speed left turn lane for the businesses that are on the east or north side of the road there, including the Choice Plus, the State Farm agent, and a side route to the, can't think of the name of the house, Reynolds House. So in all, we think we can successfully reduce the speed of the left turning traffic because of the shortened lane. We think we can address altogether the risk of someone pulling out of Elmore and crossing that left turn lane when there isn't adequate sight distance for a vehicle to stop from the speed limit. The inconvenience, the major inconvenience is that we are not planning to allow a left turn coming north on South Main Street, Vermont 14, because there's only room for a 2-vehicle queue. So if that left turn lane stops, if the northbound lane stops to make a left turn, we guarantee that the light will become plugged and then we will have northbound traffic filling the intersection, and that will create an impasse. So there is no left turn lane coming north, left turn, excuse me.
I have a question about that left turn. The number of vehicles that we expect to turn onto Elmore there, it's pretty small, right?
It is. It is. Literally, it's probably less than 35 in a day.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. And so I feel kind of like we might be over optimizing for that case, because if it happens only 35 times a day, and like those would be the number of times that would we ever even have a chance of blocking up the intersection. It seems to me like the inconvenience the no left turn poses is a much higher cost than potentially blocking the intersection sometimes. But that's that's what my model that I run in my brain says, but that doesn't mean it's right.
So I welcome other voices on that. My biggest concern is that in the peak hour, that minor inconvenience affects probably 100 to 120 people in that 5 to 7 minute interval when the intersection is plugged. But I do welcome other thoughts.
Does any other members of the committee have thoughts about the just to make sure that Bill is describing a left turn onto Elmore from South Main Street. So if you're in the lane on the side of the Reynolds house, trying to turn left onto the U of streets, you can't do that in the new design. You would have to go someplace else, turn around, and come back. Go ahead, Jen.
My thought about it is that it's really something that I'd want to hear from the people who live there about, because I remember we talked about it last time. You just have to plan the route that you're going to take to get home, perhaps in a different way, or to go to work, perhaps in a different way. So twice a day, those 35 cars are going to have to make a decision about how they approach that works with the change that's being made. And I think we've really got to hear feedback from them. I can't even begin to assess whether that's a hardship or not.
Erica?
Yeah, so I'm just trying to picture where I am, and I'm trying to think if it's by the EF wall building, if that's where we are, and if that's further down.
Across from the Reynolds house.
Yeah, so you go down that way, and I'm just thinking during peak hours, that's a difficult area as during like 4:30 when everybody's leaving that area. And already I'm thinking, if you're coming down that area, that's already jammed as well. And then you get to where the Tilden house is. My dog's going to start barking, excuse him. But that's already jammed, and people are already jamming that intersection by Tilden where you get to the to City Hall Park, and that's already traffic jam. I mean, people avoid that area like the plague because people are already trying to make a left-hand turn by ladder 1, and that's where you're already making plans, like, where do I make a left-hand turn and go up by the Prospect Street, or do I go toward the library? I mean, that at 4:30, that's plugged.
So the situation that you're describing there on South Main Street, where people try to cross over and make that left turn into ladder one, is the exact situation I'm trying to avoid coming north on South Main Street to Reynolds House. Because there's a short distance between that left turn and where the traffic intersection is. And so, just one or two vehicles is enough to stop traffic and literally put cars through the whole intersection. So that's the goal, to avoid it.
Bill, I understand your goal, but it's gonna take more than one or two cars to stop that plugging.
I think that what he's just, oh, go ahead, Bill.
So if I'm able to not, if I don't allow that left turn, then traffic can always continue forward. And so the intersection at Air Street would stay clear, but it'll mean that all those folks who live on either Elmore or Glenwood would be required to drive right past their street, turn into one of the parking lots, and return to take a right turn on Elmore. So it's definitely going to affect the residents. Again, I'd observe for you how important it is to listen to other people talk. Because one of the things that just occurred to me is it could be no left turn during posted times. And all my concerns are around those peak hourly volumes. And so if I put no left turn from 7 to 9:30 a.m. and no left turn from 2:30 to 4:30 p.m., it could be a left turn any other time. It's only in those peak times that I would be concerned.
That would get rid of all of my concerns.
I think that's a brilliant idea.
Well, I have to thank the committee for that, because that's how it happened.
I will just say this, though. My daughter lives on a street in Boston, Jamaica Plain, and that's exactly the condition of her street. You can't make a left-hand turn onto her street. And the first time we went to visit her, we thought that we couldn't do it at all because of the signage. So I think your signage is really key.
I would be very interested in Corporal Frey's opinion. If only because we'll be relying on him and his peers to help us with this.
I guess if you're looking for enforcement, changing the hours is going to become very confusing. And I mean, I hate to say it, but people will be getting stopped at the wrong times, and it'll be a little bit. I think having alternate times, it would be hard to enforce that.
My thought is that there's few enough. Oh, sorry, Tina, you were raising your hand. Go ahead, Tina. You cannot
I'm
unmute.
sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yeah,
I have
yeah.
I have a new phone, and this is like a nightmare. So I can't figure this out. But I originally, I think, Bill, you remember that I was very concerned about the unintended consequences of this whole situation on the businesses. Not really just the businesses with the turnarounds, but I was afraid of accidents happening because people are forced, they're irritated, they're turning around. But in listening to everyone, I really like the idea of the hours, and I agree with Erica. It gets so clogged when we come out of Routhier Auto. Like, I don't go that way anymore. I cannot stand the traffic for 435. But what if, and I say this knowing the corporal's listening, what if you put up signs that said no left turn, and then just know there's going to be some cheating, but that they can enforce when people are cheating when they're caught at prime times? Just a thought.
What I was going to say is that I think enforcing it there's so few cars that it seems to me like it's totally useless to enforce it. But if, sorry, my throat just stopped working. But if the hours are there, it's a nudge to get the people who live there to say like, oh yeah, we don't turn left at this time. Because really, like, what we're trying to do is have those few times when it might block the traffic be reduced. And if we achieve that through having the hours on the sign, that seems great. If somebody's going to turn left breaking the rules, they're going to do it anyway, whether we've got hours on the sign or not.
I agree.
Art has his hand up.
Yeah. Uh-uh.
Sorry, I couldn't see you. You're just off the screen, Art, but thank you for nudging. Go ahead, Art.
I just wanted to ask Bill, how many people are you thinking? 35 people are turning in there?
I think
Is it
that's a
50, you think, or?
So there are 13 homes, and we would have projected about roughly 50 occupants, and a trip generation model would tell us it's going to be between 70 and 110 trips a day.
Yeah.
And so I think when I said 35 as a left turn, I'm presuming it's primarily a 50-50 split on traffic, and that half the time folks would be trying to turn into that.
Going out Glenwood, they have a choice, either way they want to go. Well, I mean, we don't know what direction they're going, but there is no problem there.
Right.
So only those people coming from the south. Yeah,
Again,
I think if you just say that's the entrance, I don't think there'd be a problem because people will judge for themselves if they can make the turn. If there's a lot of traffic, they may just say, I'm going up and I'll turn around and go get in the right lane and then turn in.
I'm certain that they get a lot of feedback from the people behind them if they delayed very long.
Right. So were you saying just don't have a left turn sign, no left turn sign rather?
Right, no hours, just, that's the turn, if they want to go in. You have to leave that intersection open, right?
And that's true. It is a cross-hatched area that cars aren't supposed to stop in.
Now, unless the signal on the south end at Air Street for the traffic south, I mean, coming north, is delayed or not delayed, advanced a few seconds before the cars going south get the advance, then they probably could get in. You know, 3 seconds, 4 seconds. 5
So
seconds.
I do understand that what you're saying is if we offset the green light initiation,
Yeah.
you can promote a flow southbound.
Yeah.
At the same time, that would mean reprogramming the light and,
Mhm.
and
Yeah. I
it's
know.
beyond my skill level.
And it's to optimize for 35 turning cars also.
I mean,
So
you can always make that change if there is a problem, if we notice the problem is there.
So it seems like there are two things to consider on this one, Bill, for next time. Adding hours to have it be no left turn only at peak times, or seeing if it's possible to remove the sign. It sounds like those are the two floated ideas.
Yep,
Sound right
thank
to people? Okay. I had one other question or a potential concern about the design. I don't want to jump. If anybody else had something that they wanted to raise, I certainly would let them go ahead.
Sorry, could you repeat those ideas?
Oh, yeah, that's all right. One of them was, as Bill suggested, having hours on the no left turn sign. And then Art said, consider just not having a no left turn sign because people can decide for themselves whether to, to face the wrath of the cars behind them.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course, without the wrath part, he didn't say that. That was me.
Mhm.
Yeah, so the question that I was going to have is the gore, the striped area next to the crosswalk, big enough? So it's, there's a currently there's a pretty big striped area on the south side of the crosswalk, and in the new design it's pretty small. And so my question is, and this is for Bill, is that enough space to give some some room to the crosswalk. And I guess if it is does it make sense to put some of those little little pole things in it or something? I don't know.
So.
Oh, sorry, Joanne just asked who's taking notes, and Erica is taking notes. So yeah, we talked beforehand, so just so everyone knows, there are minutes being taken. So sorry about that. Go ahead, Bill.
So I didn't intend necessarily to alter the size of that crosshatched area at all. And so I would not reduce it. It provides some visibility for northbound traffic if it's extended across the intersection. So the crosswalk right now is on the north edge of Elmore Street, the side towards City Hall.
Oh, I'm sorry. I mean the crosswalk that's further down, which is it's on the other side of Abishans. Sorry about that.
Dollar General.
No, it's-
Yeah,
so
yeah, by
that is
Dollar General, right?
opposite Dollar General. So in that case, I don't believe there is any cross hatching. It's just a standard crosswalk.
Hang on a second. I'm going to share my screen so I can.
Well, I understand now.
Okay.
You're suggesting that Gore could actually be identified as a,
Well, there's an area that is see. There's this existing core. The yellow. Is my cursor visible? Sorry.
yes, that is visible.
Yeah, great. So there's this the existing gore here that is, you know, that goes on a fair distance away from the crosswalk. And I know that not all of that's essential, but I was wondering if this small bit that's left in the altered design is enough to still maintain that sort of sense of protection for the crosswalk. That's all I was asking. Because I don't know what it, you know, like when I look at it, I don't exactly see what it would be like on the ground. So just checking in about that.
So I think it's a good observation in terms of our objectives, having visibility. I think that it will work okay. And I say that because the likelihood of vehicles being stopped for that left turn to turn into the third entrance to Dollar General is small. At the same time, the likelihood of having to make that left turn when there are two prior opportunities really means that the Gore could be extended and we would eliminate the left turn for that roughly 70-foot section near the crosswalk. So imagine that the Gore gets extended and instead of having that left turn arrow, there's only an oncoming right turn arrow if you're headed, it'll be a cross traffic left. And in that photo, you'd see a driveway that is about 100 feet from the crosswalk. So having that turning lane for that drive access actually provides a safer alternative. But with the other alternatives, if you're going southbound to be able to turn into Dollar General, already having two entrances, we probably don't have to foster a third. So we could extend the Gore and eliminate that area as a left turn option. And I think the visibility would be okay either way, but if the sense of the committee was, you know, it's better to have that a clearer, longer line of sight, we can.
Yeah, I don't have a strong feeling about it. I was just curious. I feel like if the Gore is that close to the crosswalk, it might be nice to put one of those little pole things in it, or, you know, some just to make sure that it's identifiable as a please don't drive your car here through this crosswalk area.
So I agree with that, and this would be a location where, because we've got an offset, we could use 4 delineators, one on each curb and then one on each side of the Gore. And have a stronger visual impact. And this is a fairly important crosswalk from a social justice perspective. There are a lot of folks that use this and rely on Dollar General as a place to shop that need that access.
Yeah, that's why I was trying to think about what's the impact here, because it's one of the places that we looked at for which one was it? Was it for the RFBs? I think so.
It was considered for that.
Right.
Although the RRFBs are supposed to be delivered and installed next week out in the north end. But they're all.
That's exciting.
All made up and ready to come to Barry.
Well, does anybody have any other thoughts about the proposed design for this? All right, yeah, go ahead.
I'll just say that it doesn't have anything to do with Glenwood or Elmore, but up by Aubuchon's, we have had a couple accidents there where people thought cars were turning left and they passed on the right, which you're not supposed to do anyway, and people weren't turning left. So I kind of like that they're adding that turn lane. Does that make sense, Bill?
Yeah,
Were you aware of that situation? We've had a couple incidents there.
so I didn't realize that we had, but as I looked at it, I just thought this is an accident waiting to happen. What you've confirmed is that I don't have to wait. It's already happening.
Yeah, I think that I'm glad to hear you say that that's it's a design change that's going to solve a real problem. All right, great. Well, we'll put this on the agenda for next time around, and we'll see if anybody from from the street comes out to give us a piece of their mind, which is what we want. Yeah. So for now, we can hold on this. I'm glad that we looked at it in a little bit more depth. We're going to be more prepared for for seeing people. All right. Next, where did I put this little thing? Sorry. Yeah. Next under new business is the Prospect Street digital speed sign location. So we had discussed in roundtable, I forget exactly, at some point last meeting came up and we talked about it a bit. And then we have got it on our agenda for this meeting. I believe, unless it has moved, the speed sign is in a new location. We don't have a map of it, but it is easy to kind of understand where it is because it's directly next to the current 25 sign that is, if not at the boundary, very, very close to the city boundary with Berlin. Berlin there, right?
Actually, it's
That's
Barrytown.
Barrytown. That's Barrytown, yeah.
So I should explain that what we had asked staff to do was to simply put in the sign bases so that the signs might be moved if that was the tax decision. With some zeal, apparently, because it wasn't asked, staff went ahead and actually relocated signs. And in some cases, we're planning to move them back because they weren't contemplated to be moved. And we've gotten both positive and negative feedback for those actions that weren't intended to happen yet. But Michael's accurately characterized where the Prospect sign moved. So it's about 500 feet further away from the city. It's on a straight portion of the road up near the crest of the hill. So again, we're hopeful it helps people slow down sooner. The 85th percentile is in the 34 mile an hour range on Prospect. So, but we still had over 18,000 cars in the course of the 4 months that were above 40 or above 35. So it may be helping, but there's still a lot of opportunity for improvement.
that location, what am I trying to say? I have slight concerns about the location of that sign as so far outside of the built up area. But I think we could see how it works. I was hoping to kind of see where the X was on the map before we knew where it was going to be, because I understand that we were looking at that location and saying it's around the turn. People don't have enough time to to see the sign before they react. But I feel like we might have overshot somewhat by moving the sign so far out. But it's uncertain to me on Prospect Street how much impact the sign is going to have, because there's no part of Prospect Street until you get well toward City Hall Park that is telling you to slow down by the design of the street. And as we know, the digital speed signs, they have an impact, but they have the greatest impact when there's other design cues that are reinforcing them, that are saying like, hey, no, really, this is the point at which you slow down. And so I worry a little bit about what's the right thing to do for these areas. And we looked at gateway treatments as saying like, what do we do for traffic calming? I'm okay with leaving this sign where we've put it, because it's probably better than the sort of non-optimal location that we used to have it. But and then we can observe it. But I kind of feel like we maybe don't have that one dialed in yet as to where's the right spot. But I don't drive that route all that regularly, so I don't have a felt sense of like where the right spot is. And so I'm curious if anybody else has had a look at it, and and Erica's got her hand up, so go ahead.
So as somebody who lived off of Prospect Street, my reaction is we move the sign. Because I take Airport Road into Montpelier all the time. And I didn't know we moved the sign. Sorry. I can say that, as somebody who takes that strip all the time, because I'm proud I live on Bassett Street. But as soon as I see, like the ballpark, Bond Field or wherever it's called, then I know, oh, I have to slow down. But I didn't even know we moved the sign. Sorry, y'all.
Oh, go ahead, Art. Go ahead. It picked you up. I'm sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
You saw me that time, okay. I just got a question. I don't always think outside the box here. We're concerned about traffic coming in, but that ball field is there, baseball, softball, football, and soccer they play there. That's a lot of kids. You would think Barry Town would decide, maybe we should lower the speed limit and not 40 miles an hour. There's too many kids in this area. And maybe they could lower the speed limit to 35 or even 30 through that area. And then coming into the city will be a lot easier for the drivers. So I'm suggesting to go talk to Barry Town.
So it would be very easy for me to write a letter to the Barrytown engineer and ask him to consider taking that issue up with their traffic advisory committee, and remind them of the importance of addressing the safety for youth. Again, they're usually off the road there, but it's a very popular location. I don't think there's any harm in simply asking.
I agree with you, Art. I think that whenever I go past there, observing the speed limit assiduously as I do, I'm not being sarcastic, actually. It's kind of weird. Anyway, it's especially, it's heavily used, the field, and so people have to park off of the road and walk in, and so it does seem like a place that you would really want the speed to be lowered. And so certainly that's I feel like it's something the town should consider. That said, the design speed for this part of Prospect Street is probably like 50, right?
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of cues that are telling drivers like, you know, hey, hammer down, people. And just putting up a new sign, you know, as we know, we have one that's like 100 feet away from the field, and it does not get respected at all. So putting up the sign won't have much of an impact. But I think, sorry, Art, did you?
Unless you put in a lot of rumble strips
Well,
into the city, you won't have people slowing down.
no, we do have other strategies that are not rumble strippy. I mean, because there's the stuff that we looked at when we had our meeting about you know, traffic calming for gateways. And it's, I mean, so basically, like, you know, deflection is the, you know, that's what they call it, right, Bill? When you like, you go up or go to the side, that's the slow down thing. And so it seems to me like the thing that's going to work best for us are medians. If we could put like a, you know, a landscaped median in the middle of our street in these gateway areas, it's just an expensive proposition. So we would have to plan to do that, and you know, then do all of the you know, all of the engineering and construction. Yeah, go ahead, Corporal.
So I will say that I noticed the sign was moved, like when it was moved. We are still getting speeders, but people tend to speed up as they're going by Bailey Street too. So it's kind of a two-way. You know, this past week I sat on there for a couple hours. People are doing 45 coming up. And it's like they're headed, I think Art's onto something with maybe asking Berrytown, because people are looking at that 40. Pulled over a couple people doing 45 and they're like, speed limit's 40 here. And I'm like, no, it's actually 25. You see the sign in front of you says 40, that's where the 40 is, you know? So.
Yeah, well, thank you for doing that. Go ahead, Tina.
Wow, I found my unmute button. Imagine that technology. So I agree. Art, I think that's a phenomenal idea. Why not ask? The worst they can say is no. Another sign, people may see it or may not. I use that route like Erica almost daily. And I find the signs to just be a reminder our heads are somewhere else. It's just like, oops. But the other two things I was thinking is, I don't know what, I'm trying to think what they usually do to warn people that children are in the area, anything like that. And then what about, I remember when I first joined the committee, you talking about traffic parking spots, sort of as a traffic or, you know, gate sort of way to kind of make people think. I don't know if there are actually parking spots there, like if they're painted, you know what I mean? Paint would be a pretty cheap option to sort of make people think, oh, just a thought. Have no idea. I have to look. I know cars are parked there all the time, but I never look to see if there's anything painted for them to park there. So if we kind of popped them out a little bit, it would narrow it without doing rumble strips or a lot of money. Oops.
Well,
So
go ahead, Bill.
So I think that's a distinct possibility, and one of the things that really works with that is the designation of gores. So by using a gore on each side of the drive-in entrance, you have a strong visual impact with a lot of tightly spaced lines. So I think we could look at trying to develop a painting scheme to see if we could get attention, and the city owns the road there beyond that 25-mile-an-hour sign. Berrytown was astute enough to make certain the city owned the street and they own the land that fronts on it. So they get the tax revenue and we get the repairs.
Fortunately, it's not that much street.
Yeah.
Joanne.
So I use that street at least once a week, some weeks twice. And when I first came down Prospect Street and noticed the sign, my head was not in where it should have been. And I was going faster than I should have been. And it was like a hey. And I kind of chuckled to myself and said, hey, the sign is there now. I actually think it's a good thing that it's there. I think it's like the one that's on the Barry Montpelier Road coming into the city out beyond the Granite Museum. That one is another one, you know, you're on another road that you're going 40 or 45 miles an hour on. And it's just, to me, whatever we can do to give people the heads up when they enter the city and then reinforce it when they get to the busier parts, I think is a good thing. And I know I'm kind of a fan of overkill, but I do think those signs work.
And the data backs it up. They are effective. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think in terms of what we're considering is placement. I think if we do nothing, it can just stay where it is next to the other sign. And I would say, like I was saying before, we can just observe and see if it works there. Maybe I'll look at a map and imagine, I don't know, I feel like a little down the hill is like the right spot. We, you know, like have 100 or 200 feet after the first 25 sign, and it's still in the same line. But I don't know. I haven't gone and looked at it to be sure that makes any sense. So I think making people make another hole, I wouldn't do that. Maybe we just let it be how it is. Well, everyone seems quiet. I can't see Art, so
He's quiet too.
all right. Yeah, great. Thank you for Bill for informing me about the reason for the movement of the signs. It's, you know, I don't know. Sometimes things happen.
I experienced that much more than I'd like to.
Well, so it's slightly off topic for this discussion, but the other sign that has moved, as far as I know, I don't know if any other ones, the Washington Street sign migrated out to closer to the line with Berrytown, and we had given advisement to put in a new sign there in that location to see if it had an impact. So my question for Bill was, new signs are on their way at some point. Did you have any idea of when that was, or?
So the delivery time frame on them is 6 weeks. I have had competitive quotes now for over 3 months, and I have not found time to just order them. It's not a valid excuse, but the reality is that if I can get 40 minutes dedicated to any one thing, it can always get done. I did the grant application in about an hour and 15 minutes when I thought I was at the deadline and I'd miss it. And so it's just boxing time out against all the other pressures. And I'm certain that we can have them in before May 1st. I'd like to say that it'll be well before that, but I don't have a great deal of hope that we're going to see employees. I'm missing 3 professional employees positions right now in my office, and my administrative assistant broke her arm. So I'm answering phones, I'm coding our AP, and I'm trying to just keep the boat afloat.
Yeah. With that in mind, I would be inclined to just leave that sign where it is too, to avoid having more change happen. Because I think, you know, it's not ideal to have it relocated, but I feel like it's not great for drivers or anyone to have stuff keep shifting around unpredictably. I'm curious what everyone else thinks. I don't think we can really have a decision about it, because it's not part of this topic exactly. But I'm just curious what folks think. You could just give a thumbs up if that makes sense or something too. So, all right. Yeah, very good. Because I don't want to add another thing also. But whenever you do get a chance and we do get those new signs ordered, it'd be awesome to plop one back at the whichever street it was at. I forget. It wasn't
Waterman and Nelson.
Waterman. Yeah, right. Because it's the better location. But let's not let perfect be the enemy of the good, is what I was thinking. All right. Hey, I don't think we have to do anything then. Because if things just are how they are, that's that. Did anyone else have anything to add on the speed signs? Okie doke. Our next meeting is scheduled for January 18th. And it says 2022 in here. That's ridiculous. Come on, Michael. Come on. All right. Well, I'm going to blame that. I changed the kind of document that I use. And so now it's not a date object anymore. It's just text. And so I have to edit it like a human. And, humans, they make mistakes. But if the 18th doesn't sound good, somebody say, hey, that's not good. Otherwise, that's when we'll meet. All right, that's when we'll meet. Does anyone have anything that they would like to bring to our roundtable to close out our evening? All right, I got nothing. I can't see Art, but I see one arm. So I think we might be good.
Oh, I'm good.
All right, thank you. I don't mean to put you on the spot. It's just the camera. The camera loves Bill. I don't know. Yeah.
I'm 3 times closer than Art. I've got to get him to sit, not in the back of the room, that's all.
Have a Merry Christmas, everyone. Happy New Year.
Oh, we got to have a motion to adjourn before. Yeah. Oh, but yeah, that's your roundtable. I thought that was your saying goodbye, but yeah. Good roundtable. Yeah.
I'll move to adjourn the meeting.
All right, we have a motion. Is
I'll
there a
second
second?
it.
All right, Tina seconds. All in favor?
Yay. Yay.
All right, we are adjourned, folks. Yes, and as Art said, have a Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year, and if you're doing Hanukkah, it's right now. It's happening. Yeah.
Happy solstice.
Happy holidays.
Happy solstice. That's
Happy
right.
solstice, folks. Yep.
Bye.
Bye, everyone. See you
Bye-bye.
next year.
Bye.